Moving right along, we have the public agenda, and we have two individuals that will be speaking on the public agenda. The first person is Sheila Officer, and she has a presentation and introduction of the Racial Profiling Citizen Advisory Board. Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, council members, city officials, and the community. My name is Sheila Officer, and I am the chair of the Racial Profiling Advisory Board of Wichita. We've been in existence since 1999. It was then formed by Dr. Walt Chappell as the Citizens for Equal Law Enforcement. Of course, our name now is Racial Profiling Advisory Board of Wichita. In 2005, with the assistance of the then Senator Donald Betts, Aletha Faust-Goodell Senator, and State Representative Gail Finney, we were able to pass legislation which is now part of the Kansas statutes, that is the racial profiling bill dealing with racial profiling. It is Kansas statutes 224606 through 4610. To some, we need no introduction, but I do want to present some of the concerns that we have and then some of the accomplishments that we have accomplished in 2013 and concerns for 2014. In 2013, our points of interest and importance were training. In working with Deputy Chief Moses, and we thank her for her collaboration in working with us, Deputy Chief Moses, our board found the Tools for Tolerance racial profiling training that was then purchased by the City of Wichita and implemented by the City of Wichita Police Department, giving officers the training on racial profiling. Another point of importance for us was reviewing, revising, and recommending changes in policies that has to do with the procedures and operations, the process of how we are served as citizens by our local law enforcement agency. Accountability. Accountability with the community is very important, as we are aware that some officers abuse their authority. They are a violation of civil liberties of the citizens of this city and of this state. Outreach. We are responsible for the outreach to the public, pursuing better communication with the Wichita Police Department and the community. That is our primary goal also. Our mission statement is to eliminate bias-based policing, to also empower our community with education about their civil liberties and their rights. Also, we are striving to improve the working relationship between our community, the Wichita Police Department, and as recently as 2 weeks ago with the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Easter has agreed that he will periodically come to the table with us to talk to us in the spirit of communication and accountability, to shed light on the integrity and the transparency of his department, and we thank him for that. Our concerns in 2014, basically they are the same for the concerns in 2013. Officer-involved shootings, excessive force. We will be working with the Wichita Police Department in revising, reviewing policies dealing with excessive force. We will work with them in training and how to use language and communication in de-escalating a situation, because it is very important. Also, a primary concern is the ability to officers to fluently talk to the communities that they serve. The Hispanic community in Spanish, having an officer available to interpret what that citizen is trying to relay. That is very important, because we all know in a relationship without communication, there is nothing. The matter of the police policing the police. The community, as the board, are very concerned about the police policing the police. Even the International Association for the Chief of Police has said that the police should not be policing the police, and we agree. We support the proposal of an independent citizens review board with subpoena power that will work in collaboration with the Wichita Police Department and the city in improving the service that the local law enforcement officers provide to this city. Our board has successfully and effectively partnered with community departments and the city, increasing the trust, integrity, and support, and ensuring transparency. These various boards, the Citizens Review Boards, exist in states such as Mexico, Missouri, Oregon, and Minnesota. They have been very effective in what they do, and the collaboration between them, the city officials, and the city has been great. While we continue to address and resolve our concerns, we have made many accomplishments, and in doing so have improved our communities. We provide education, empowerment. We provide at least 4 workshops annually in empowering our communities. Our first workshop, and we invite you to attend, will be June the 21st at the Sunflower Community Action Center. That workshop will address traffic stops and searches. It will be given by a local attorney here in town. We provide experienced presenters, such as attorneys from town, educators from Washburn University, addressing the 4th, 14th, and 5th Amendment, as well as co-sponsoring with ACLU. Other accomplishments, we have established a good working relationship with our city manager, Robert Layton. We thank him so very much for his open door policy, and he is a great leader. Someone once said that managing is doing what you see is right, or doing the right thing, or doing what is right, and then leadership is doing what you know to be right. And I believe that's Robert Layton. I want to thank him. Before I take my seat, I want to emphasize that bias-based policing is a nationwide problem. It does exist in Wichita, Kansas. Limiting and eliminating our civil liberties is a serious problem here. We as citizens demand accountability. Our board is not saying that the entire police department is rogue, but we are saying that there are some rogue officers who have not been held accountable for their abuse and misuse of authority. We respect and appreciate the officers who with pride, professionalism, and honor conduct their duties. But we always insist and will always pursue accountability for officers who dishonor and violate our trust and our rights. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. I do have brochures, and we have business cards, as well as a brochure that we put together in collaboration with the Wichita Police Department that I'd like to share with you.
Any questions? Seeing no questions, thank you.
Thank you.
The next person speaking on the public agenda today is Walt Chappell. And subject matter is why racial profiling in Wichita needs to stop.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for this opportunity to be here. I respect each and every one of you as council people, and of course our city manager, very excellent leader. I have often reflected as an elected official myself on the Pledge of Allegiance. Every meeting we start with a very sincere pledge of liberty and justice for all. And I take that very seriously, and I'm sure you do as well. But we all know that, in fact, in America at least, in our country, we still have a problem with bias-based policing. There is not liberty and justice for all. It's very selective. Now, this is not just a Wichita problem. This is a statewide and national problem, as we all know. We've just had an example with the LA Clippers of a gentleman who was expressing himself very candidly in front of some people he thought were going to be accepting his bias and his insults. And unfortunately, he was caught on tape. I say unfortunately, I'm sure he felt it that way. But he's expressing what he felt, and we're seeing that bias in the way in which some of the officers in our police department in Wichita behave on the streets of our city. Now, this is a concern, and it's not new. We started back in 1998 to try to bring some of these issues forward. We met at that time with county and city officials. We met with the Sheriff Steed and Mike Watson. They were both at the table. We met over at Interfaith Ministries. And we tried to resolve this issue very clearly at that time. Now I see Levanta here. Levanta has worked with us with the NAACP. That organization has a national concern as well as a local concern. we've joined together with various organizations to write this legislation that was passed in 2005. But unfortunately, that legislation has been watered down almost consistently every year since. The offense of profiling a person at the time of a stop, that offense has been removed from the statute. Data collection still hasn't started, even though it was part of the original bill. The fact that we have now received data from 3 different studies here in Wichita, all of which show that you're twice as likely to be stopped if you're black in this community, still is not being necessarily acknowledged by the police department. So when you continually deny that there's a problem, you can never solve it. And the problem that we have now is that we need to step it up a gear. I'm really glad to see we have a bicycle week, or month, excuse me. I'm a rider myself. I rode all the way through my undergraduate and graduate school for 7 years. I know bikes work. Let's move it up a gear. Let's join together as a team, as the manager says, and let's move it up a gear. We've got to take some action. We can't just talk about it. We need to take the action. And why is that? I have a handout that I'm going to provide to you for your edification. It shows that disproportionately there are over 8,000 black citizens, people who are driving on our streets that are ticketed, stopped, and given a ticket. 8,000 more per year. That amounts to $2 million in excess fines when you look at it proportionally in terms of the amount of money collected by our city. $2 million from 8,000 people. It's a tremendous amount of money. There's also the problem, once you're stopped, if you are then searched, and we found in the data that the city collected, and we've had other data to confirm this, you're 3 times more likely to be searched, arrested, or have a physical altercation with the police at the time of the stop. So those folks then end up in our jails. And we have a problem of overcrowding the jail, and much of that has to do with nonviolent offenses. About 1/3 of the people there are not there for a felony, they're in the jail for a misdemeanor. And those are data that you'll find in this document I'm sharing with you today. So that impacts people in a variety of ways. Not only are the fines high, you've added court costs, and you have, of course, the fine, and those fines were increased. But if the people don't pay them in time, then they are then subject to having their license suspended. And once suspended, they can't get to work. If they can't get to work, they can't pay their rent. They can't pay for the electricity. They are in a bind for not only themselves, but the rest of their families. If they go to jail, many times, of course, they're going to lose their job as well. Because they didn't show up, they're sitting in a jail cell for a nonviolent offense that frequently would have been dismissed and easily dealt with otherwise. So as council, you have the opportunity to set some ordinances. You have some ideas, I'm sure, to say, all right, how do we keep people out of jail? If they're not violent offenders, how do we make sure we're not sticking people there that don't deserve to sit behind bars and are better served as a community if we have them out employed and productive? So there's an idea for you. Check your ordinances, see what can be done. The other thing is to look at the disproportionate number of people in our jails. The snapshot data we have from the Sedgwick County Jail shows at least 38% of the male inmates are black, and 34% at that time of that snapshot are black females. We have approximately 11% of our population that are black living in our community. So I have really strong concerns, I'm sure you do as well, that as white as well as black and Hispanic citizens of this city, we have a problem to deal with, and we are able to deal with it if we come together and put our minds to it. Ignoring it will not work any longer. We have got to solve this problem before it gets out of hand. I sense, and I'm not sure if you recognize it as well, that there is such a disconnect in the black and Hispanic communities that the police officers frequently will not have anybody come forward at a time of a crime. A shooting takes place, no one wants to say, I saw it. A robbery takes place, no one wants to admit that they were there. And so we're in a situation now where if we do not solve this and fairly soon, I'm concerned that we may end up with a situation like they had in Watts, or in Oakland, or in Detroit, or in Tulsa. You can go down a list of cities throughout this nation that blew up because of an incident that finally reached the boiling point. We do not need that in Wichita, and I hope that as soon as possible we can stop the bias-based policing on the part of a few of the officers. Don't have a bad apple spoil the whole barrel. Thank you for your time. I'll make sure that you get copies of this information to study. Are there any questions?
Councilman Williams.
I think I just have a question of our city manager. Mr. Manager, are we going to get an update soon from the Citizens Review Board?
You're asking, Councilmember Williams, you're asking about the status report on that? Yes, we've updated our administrative regulation. In fact, I'm meeting with the two speakers, I think, in the next couple of weeks to go over the next steps.
Great. Thank you.
And we have, by the way, data that was given to Wichita State about a year ago. With the city manager's help, we were able to get a full data dump of all the traffic stops and citations issued. And that analysis still is pending. We have preliminary results, and it shows not only the blacks in our communities about the same as what they were in 2001 and 2004 when this city council approved a racial profiling stop study that showed you're twice as likely to be stopped. Those data are confirmed as 2012, 2013. But, here's the but. Before, it was just blacks. Now it's Hispanics as well as blacks. We can't have this in Wichita. We're much better than that. I thank you for your time.